President Akufo-Addo cuts the sword for first Science, Technology, Engineering and Mathematics Academy project.
Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to review single-spine pay policy this year.
Social Security and National Insurance Trust (SNIT) increases monthly pensions by 10%.
And 8 Burkinabe soldiers arrested over plot to destabilize government.
Good evening, you welcome to News Hour live on GBC News, your news and governance channel. We are also live on Facebook and YouTube at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation and GTV. My name is Micheline Taka.
And my name is Clara Mlano. Jonathan Intem Daukon will interpret the news into sign language. Good evening.
The president's dream of seeing Ghana become self-reliant in development is fast becoming a reality in the oil and gas industry. The third batch of Ghanaian youth are scheduled for Northern Alberta Institute of Technology in Canada for a trainer of trainees program to take up positions in the upstream sector of the petroleum industry of Ghana.
At the meeting with beneficiaries of the Accelerated Oil and Gas Capacity Program at the Jubilee House, Nana Akufo-Addo re-emphasized the need for Ghana to develop and manage her natural resources rather than depend on foreign expertise and capital.
5 years ago, the president launched the Accelerated Oil and Gas Capacity Program to meet Ghana's human capacity needs in the petroleum sector. The program, which has the ultimate aim of training more than 1,000 Ghanaians for the oil and gas industry annually, is going on as expected. The expectation is that with Ghanaians taking vantage positions in the oil and gas industry through these training programs, the country will derive maximum benefits from the nation's resources. This is the third batch of Ghanaian youth to have benefited from training in pipe fitting, mechanical technician, and welding from the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology in Canada. These 8 teachers from the various technical universities in Ghana will receive a 10-month training and, on their return, train other Ghanaians in that field. According to the Chief Executive of the Petroleum Commission, Mr. Ebert Fibil, this will equip Ghanaians with the requisite skills and technical know-how to take up opportunities in the upstream sector of the petroleum industry.
If we look at the oil and gas industry, almost every engineering aspect or the end products pass through pipes. Unfortunately, in Ghana, we do not have pipe fitting as a standalone course in any of our technical institutions. Aspects of it are done, but they do not therefore qualify our young technicians to be able to stand alone as pipe fitters and work in the industry. So on the FPSOs, on drill ships and allied industries, when we are looking for pipe fitters, we always have to bring in expatriates to do the real work. The Petroleum Commission, as the entity tasked with ensuring job role localization in the upstream space, has resolved under the leadership and direction of the Ministry of Energy that we need to train our own and introduce pipe fitting as a course.
President Akufo-Addo said the time has come for Ghana to be self-reliant in managing and developing its natural resources.
These resources which we have offshore, onshore, are managed and developed by us, and that we don't have to depend on foreign expertise and foreign capital to be able to do so. And of course, to attain that objective, the skills enhancement of Ghanaians in the industry is absolutely critical.
On their return, the 8 teachers are expected to introduce pipe fitting as a course in their respective institutions.
Transformation of Ghana's education from humanity-based courses to a science and technology-dominated field has been given a strong foundation. The President, Nana Akufo-Addo, has cut the sword for the construction of the first science, technology, engineering and mathematics STEM Academy in Accra, christened the Accra Academy. The 32 million CD Academy is expected to be completed within 24 months.
The Science, Technology, Engineering and Mathematics Academy is an initiative by the Ministry of Education to inculcate in the Ghanaian child the habit of using science to solve problems. To give the initiative a national representation, the academy will be built across the country to shift Ghana's education structure from reading to a science and technology-oriented program. The STEM Academy will admit pupils from kindergarten to SHS level, where they will learn everything science, technology, engineering and mathematics, including robotics, software development, internet, artificial intelligence and ethical hacking, among others. The Minister for Education, Dr. Yawosei Educhum, said the STEM Academy is a renaissance of education in Ghana.
We have begun the education transformation agenda. I call it the renaissance of education in Africa. We are beginning what will be the dawn of a new time, a new era in education. The vision of the President is that if we don't transform education, education cannot play its rightful role in transforming the economy.
The President, Nana Akufo-Addo, said the focus of the Science and Technology SHS under construction in the country is to start the transformation of education in Ghana.
In addition, the Accra STEM Academy will be a place where learners in junior high school will be provided with the options of learning basic engineering, manufacturing, and global studies to help them make informed decisions on their preferred programs of choice at senior high school level.
He said the target is to change the country's education structure from humanities dominated to the science, technology, engineering and mathematics.
The time has come for us to reorient our educational system to equip students with the right technological skills needed to succeed in the 21st century. In accordance with government's education strategic plan, targeted increasing our science to humanities ratio from the current one of 40 to 60 to the desired 60 to 40 in favor of science, government is repositioning our educational system anchored on STEM education.
The 32 million STEM Academy, a 4-story building with 14 laboratories, 28 classrooms, library, 26 washrooms and a sick bay, is expected to accommodate 2,000 students. 20 similar facilities will be built across the country.
The Fair Wages and Salaries Commission says it is starting a new process to review the single spine pay policy this year. This comes on the back of concerns raised by some public sector employees and experts over the single spine salary program since its inception. In an interview, the head of public affairs at the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Mr. El Ankrat, said it is imperative to review the policy at least every 5 years.
Most of the agitations we are talking about are not necessarily about the base pay of the single spine, because those inequities were handled by them. But when it comes to allowances, mostly all groups and organizations want to grab in more. There are category 1 allowances that have to do with the work that have been consolidated. And then there are categories 2 and 3 allowances that cut across every public service institution on the single spine. And then there are special allowances, non-core allowances that are peculiar to certain institutions. And that is where sometimes the issues come up from. But when you look at it in general, like you wake up in the morning and there are agitations from the left, agitations from the right, it makes you question the the credibility of the policy. But then when you pull back and you take the issues one after the other, you realize that the problem is not with the policy. The problem is with certain groups of workers that are demanding certain things that they may not entirely be entitled to. In 2013, there was a national forum for the sustainability of the single spine pay policy, which brought around all the key social partners, organized labor, government, civil society, the media, academia, to look at the policy thoroughly and come up with ways of addressing some of the challenges. Another one was held in 2015. And then in 2017, a team was put together to look at public service pay policy in itself. So it is in order that we do such reviews. It's not because there's a problem intrinsically with the policy itself, but there is a human institution. You realize that technology is taking over the workplace. You realize that following COVID-19, the workspace has even changed. So when you get to review the policy, you are able to address some of these issues which go into the determination of the base salary.
The Social Security and National Insurance Trust SNIT has indexed monthly pensions upwards by 10% for the year 2022. This was done in consultation with the National Pensions Regulatory Authority and in line with Section 80 of the National Pensions Act 2008, Act 766. The factors that inform the 2022 indexation rate are the percentage change in the annual average consumer price index for 2021, percentage change in average wage of active contributors in 2021, long-term sustainability of the scheme, and the liquidity, that is, the ability of the fund to pay. The Director General of SNIT, Dr. John Ofori-Tinkrine, said all pensioners on the SNIT pension payroll as at December 31, 2021 would have their monthly pension increased by a fixed rate of 9.68% plus a redistributed flat amount of 3.44 Ghana cedis. He said the low pensions arose because of low basic salaries on which contributions were paid. The Director General said the effective increase in pensions would therefore range from 9.683% for the highest earning pension to 10.83% for the lowest pension earner. Dr. Tinkrine again said the minimum pension for all new pensioners effective January 2022 would be 300 Ghana cedis, meaning pensioners whose computed monthly pensions fell below 300 cedis would be placed on this minimum.
A senior lecturer at the Pentecost University, Professor Emmanuel Osei-Champon, says the series of conflicts in Mali need to be resolved as to pave way for elections. He said ECOWAS must look into the root cause of the situation in Mali. He was speaking on the sanctions imposed on Mali by ECOWAS for failing to live up to a February 2022 deadline to return the country to constitutional rule.
We look at the history of the political upheavals in the country. Immediately after independence around 1963, they've had more than 4 rebellions, and ECOWAS continued to sanction them. But if you look at ECOWAS within the world political framework itself, they cannot bite. And I don't think that it will have any great effect on the country as a whole. Sometimes some of these former colonial masters go about things diplomatically. In the surface of the issue, they will pretend as if they are with ECOWAS. But behind the scenes, they might be working with military leaders because sometimes they benefit from chances of this nature. To sum up, I strongly believe that until we address the root cause of the continuous rebellion in Mali, the problem will continue to exist until the issue is addressed holistically. So one will ask himself, what are the causes of continuous political upheaval in Mali? Quickly, if I run through it, it includes political corruption, constant rebellion by the Tuareg forces, lack of economic opportunities, dominance of the south as compared to the north, which was created by the colonial masters, and lastly, divide and rule tactics. And I might even add the influence of the superpowers for the sake of their own selfish interests. ECOWAS can address only this issue, and I will even advise that AU and the UN also add to ECOWAS. When they are able to address the three critical questions, and the questions are, why does the conflict persist? What are the challenges towards building a lasting solution? And what has been done holistically to us?
It is estimated that 1.56 million children are indulged in child labor in the cocoa sectors of Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana. But most of these children work within their household or extended family, making child labor a complex issue to define. Cocoa Board says it will take legal action against farmers who engage children on their farms to avert a boycott of Ghana's cocoa beans on the international market. The head of the public affairs at the Ghana Cocoa Board, Mr. Fifi Boafo, in an interview said Cocoa Board has instituted measures to ensure that children within cocoa growing areas in the country go to school.
Yes, we have a challenge, but we will not in any way say that child labor is on the increase. For example, if we look at the recent statistics, 97% of children in cocoa growing areas are in school. How do you then suggest that with such an increase in number of children in schools, the same children are working in cocoa farms? At the moment, Cocoa Board is undertaking what we call cocoa management system, a database system that not just the data of the farmer and the farmer household, but also the geographical location and the activities of the farm. We are able to extrapolate and say that considering the fact that you have a farmer, the wife, and 3 kids, and you have, say, 10-acre farm, you do not have other farmers, there's a likelihood that there will be kids involved in cocoa farming, based on which our officers go there and double check. So various interventions and programs are underway. One of the things we are doing at the moment is to improve on the monitoring system to ensure that we do not have kids in the farm. So we have officers who go around on day-to-day to monitor some of these activities. For example, the recent documentary that came, in a matter of less than a day, Cocoa Board had been able to identify these farmers and where they are, because our interaction with them is at a very high level and we know exactly what they are doing. So when some of these things come up, it comes as a surprise. But hey, that's a crime. And with crime, at every point in time, you shall have someone who is trying to outwit the people seeking to monitor and getting them to do the right thing. So it is a call on us to ensure that we get it corrected.
The Carnation District Court trying the case in which the Member of Parliament for Medina, Mr. Francis Xavier Susu, is charged for unlawfully blocking a public road and the destruction of public property, could not sit on the case on Wednesday, January 12, 2022. This is because the magistrate, Mr. Oheneba Kufuor, was not available for hearing.
On Wednesday morning, when the case was expected to be called for hearing, the parties to the case were informed that the court could not sit because the presiding magistrate, Mr. Oheneba Kufuor, was on his annual leave. The Member of Parliament for Medina is accused of unlawfully blocking public road and causing destruction to public property during a protest by his constituents. Mr. Sosu, in October last year, led some of his constituents in a demonstration against bad roads. During the protest, some of the protesters allegedly blocked roads, bent ties and destroyed some public property, which the police described as unlawful. On a number of occasions, the police invited the MP for questioning, but he failed to show up. On November 8, 2021, the police service secured a criminal summons for Mr. Sosu to appear in court. The MP, however, missed the court date because he was out of the country. Mr. Sosu failed to appear in court on 2 other occasions, which led to the Kaneshie District Court, presided over by Mr. Oheneba Kufuor, issuing a bench warrant for his arrest on Monday, November 29, 2021. However, on Wednesday, December 1, 2021, the court vacated the warrant for arrest after lawyers for the lawmaker finally brought him to the court in the company of some bigwigs in the NDC, including the minority leader in Parliament, Mr. Haruna Idrisu, to justify the MP's absence in court.
A new headquarters for the Police Professional Standards Bureau, PPSB, and a one-stop center for the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit, DOVSU, have been inaugurated for the Ghana Police Service in Accra. Both facilities were completed with funding from donor partners.
The new 2-story headquarters for the Police Professional Standards Bureau, PPSB, was donated by the Executive Chairman of Tobinco Group of Companies, Mr. Samuel Amu Tobin. The edifice, situated at the Nima Divisional Police Headquarters in Accra, is valued at about 3,982,000 cedis and has offices including a public complaint call center. The Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampari, remarked that the most important factor in the development of every country is security. Hence, the police must be well equipped and supported to deliver its constitutional mandate. He said the new PPSB office will help the police deliver its services in a more professional and ethical manner. The Minister for the Interior, Mr. Ambrose Derry, lauded the Executive Chairman of Tobinco Group of Companies for supporting the Ghana Police Service. In a related development, a one-stop center for the Domestic Violence and Victims Support Unit, DOVSU, of the Ghana Police Service was commissioned in Accra. The center has, among other facilities, 2 courts, a district court and a circuit court. Services expected to be offered at the center are investigation, social welfare service, legal aid, clinical psychology, and counseling, among others. The Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampari, was of the view that solving domestic issues needs a preventive approach.
We should have it in mind that we, the police, who are going to work in these facilities, will be more concerned about preventing it from happening, and where it does happen, ensuring that we do all what it takes to bring the families together than finding a way or probably a shortcut or probably a lazy approach of breaking down the family because we feel that that is something that can easily be done.
The UN Resident Coordinator in Ghana, Mr. Charles Abani, said the inauguration of a new DOVSU center gives hope to every child and parent that there is help. Representative of the Chief Justice, Justice Jones Doche, highlighted some of the challenges in adjudicating domestic violence and related abuse in the country, adding that the DOVSU One-Stop Center is a step in the right direction.
It is in the same spirit of making justice more accessible to all that the Ghana Police Service has deemed it appropriate to situate 2 courts, a district court that will sit as a juvenile court and a circuit court that will sit as a child-friendly, gender-based violence court in the DOVSU One-Stop Center to facilitate the successful prosecution of domestic violence or abuse and gender-based violence cases.
The Minister for the Interior, Mr. Ambrose Derry, said the fight against domestic violence needs a holistic approach.
The eradication or reduction of GBV is therefore critical in nation building, and that's why SDG Goal 5 is tied to achieving greater gender equality and empowering all women and girls.
The Ghana Police Service was grateful to the Australian High Commission, the United Nations and UNICEF, churches, NGOs, the executive chairman of Tobinco Group of Companies, and other individuals who supported in diverse ways to complete these facilities. Rachel Quarty, GBC News, Accra.
The Departments of Parks and Gardens have received vehicles and other equipment from the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development to enhance its operations. The gesture is to also equip the departments to undertake effective landscape beautification across the country.
The Department of Parks and Gardens, as established by the Local Government and the Civil Service Act, is mandated to ensure development of the horticultural potentials of the country. The department also conducts research into horticultural products, manages floricultural sections, and provides routine landscape maintenance of prestige areas. The Deputy Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Mr. Martin J. Mensah-Kosa, who presented the equipment to the department, called on the public to cooperate and support the department to enable it to perform its duties effectively.
As the minister responsible for the overall performance of the sector, my responsibility is to liaise with the Office of the President to provide policy direction to enable the department to deliver on its mandate. It is in light of the above that His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, directed that the ministry procure the following equipment to augment the existing fleet of equipment to facilitate the revitalization of the department.
The acting director of the Department of Parks and Gardens, Mr. Charles Okine, thanked the government for the support and gave the assurance that equipment will be distributed to its offices across the country. Equipment include a tipper truck, Toyota Land Cruiser, Nissan pickup, motorbikes, mowing machines, chainsaw machines, drive mower, polytanks, and laptop computers.
Time to make way for business.
Do you know about 6 people lose their lives daily in road accidents and a lot of them are passengers?
It is not my portion. Those people, their prayers are not strong.
What would you do now if there is a road crash?
I would just grab the seat and shout, Jesus!
Do you feel good about yourself?
Papa. Wow, she said Papa driver. Tiaso.
Mame, are you sure you're not the devil?
Make you not do Abonsamejuma. Stay alive. This Stay Alive campaign is brought to you by the National Road Safety Authority.
It is a nightmare dealing with the filth in Accra. The gutters are choked with garbage. The streets are a jumble of filth. The beauty of the serene beaches is marred with human feces and plastics, as many defecate in the open. Residents are up in arms when the situation gets out of hand.
Because of these litters, you can't even stand there for even a minute. As we speak here, if the mosquitoes even refuse to breed on it.
Partners in sanitation suggest alternative policy interventions.
Plant filling is not the way forward. We are recommending treatment facilities.
But in all of this, have we made gains in the sector?
How can you have a people who have a lot of dignity and still practicing open defecation?
The task facing Ghana to achieve SDG Goal 6 on clean water and sanitation for all is Herculean. and riddled with equally complicated hurdles. Join us every Thursday on Wash Hour from 4:05 p.m. to 5 p.m. as we seek to put these issues and more in perspective. Watch a repeat on Fridays from 1 to 2 p.m. and on Sundays 9:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. It is our duty to keep our surroundings clean and free from disease.
Hello, this is Business, brought to you by MTN and Whirlpool. My name is Esther Edu Ohumewu. The year-on-year inflation rate as measured by the Consumer Price Index was 12.6% in December 2021, with the month-on-month inflation also pegged at 12%. All regions recorded positive month-on-month inflation rates, with the Upper East region recording the lowest of 0.1%. The inflation rate of 12.6% is 0.4 percentage points higher than the 12.2% recorded in November. Housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels recorded the highest inflation of 20.7% for all the divisions. The overall year-on-year inflation ranged from 7.4% in the Eastern region to 18.6% in the Upper West region. Eastern region recorded the highest month-on-month inflation of 4.8%, with the Upper East region recording the lowest of 0.1%. Food inflation contribution to total inflation decreased from 47.7% in November to 45.2% in December. 14 out of the 15 food subclasses recorded positive month-on-month inflation, with coffee and coffee substitutes recording a deflation of negative 0.3%. The World Bank has slashed its global growth forecast and cautioned that a rise in inflation, debt and income inequality could jeopardize the recovery in emerging and developing economies.
Several nations around the world have started unwinding unprecedented levels of fiscal and monetary policy support to tackle the fallout from the coronavirus pandemic. The World Bank, in its Global Economic Prospects report, said that development will derail global recovery. The projections follow a strong rebound in global growth as demand soared after pandemic-related lockdowns lifted. The World Bank had estimated the world economy to grow 5.5% in 2021. The resurgence in COVID infections driven by the Omicron variant is disrupting economic activity in the near term and could worsen growth projections if it persists. Major economies including the United States, China, and countries in the Eurozone are expected to slow down this year. Ongoing supply chain bottlenecks, rising inflationary pressures, and elevated levels of financial vulnerability in large parts of the world could increase the risk of a sharp economic slowdown, a situation known as hard landing.
The Pan-African Payment and Settlement System is expected to facilitate and drive the enormous growth in intra-African trade resulting from the African Continental Free Trade Area's creation of a single market throughout Africa. PABS is also expected to facilitate the payment, clearing and settlement systems for intra-African trade, simplify intra-regional transactions, enable local currencies to be used, alleviate the need for offshore clearance and payments, and also reduce cost, duration, and time variability of cross-border payments. PABS is expected to save the continent over $5 billion annually in payment and transaction costs. The Pan-African Payment and Settlement System will be officially launched by President Akufo-Addo on January 13th this year. Let's have the interbank and commodity figures for the day. Still on business, Mrs. Angela Tremantin-Jimo, a well-sought-after international corporate expert, has been appointed by Microsoft as a strategic partnership lead for Africa in its new Africa Transformation Office. Currently, the youngest member on the Bank of Ghana Governing Board, Angela was poached from another industry giant, IBM, to a new office in Microsoft's Africa Transformation Office. Microsoft's establishment of an Africa Transformation Office, ATO, is a reinforcement of its investment in Africa to facilitate digital transformation of the continent involving Africans themselves. The office will focus on facilitating growth and promoting investment in 4 essential development areas: digital infrastructure, skills development, small and medium-scale enterprises, SMEs, and startups. Angela Tremantin-Jimo and her team are to facilitate the strategic partnership for the ATO, forming coalitions, partnerships, and negotiating market agreements with governments on the continent. The agreements are also to be extended to financial institutions, telecom networks, the United Nations, the World Bank, and the African Development Bank, and other international organizations, with the primary goal of inspiring life-changing and sustainable innovations that will impact Africa. With over 20 years of leadership experience across Africa and other continents, Angela is expected to drive strategic partnerships and alliances aimed at accelerating digital transformation. Prior to joining Microsoft, Angela was the first female and first African Executive Director and Regional Head for IBM in North, East and West Africa, where she advanced IBM's hybrid cloud and AI momentum across 35 countries on the continent. She has also worked for UBS Investment Bank and ABN AMRO in the UK. In Ghana, Angela Tremantin-Jimo was head of consumer banking for GT Bank Ghana and head of prestige banking for UBA Bank Ghana. Angela, an alumna of the Harvard Business School, currently sits on multiple boards, including the board of the Central Bank of Ghana. And that's all for business, brought to you by MTN and Whirlpool. Thanks for watching.
Hello and welcome to the Energy News. My name is Mabel Anna. Oil exploration and production firm Aker Energy has secured $100 million from the African Finance Corporation AFC for the development of Ghana's deepwater Tano Cape 3-point DWT-CTP oil block. This brings AFC's total bond investment in Aker Energy to $200 million.
Arctic Securities acted as sole manager and financial advisor for the transaction. Aker Energy and its licensed partners have secured the FPSO Derby-1 for the first phase of the field development and are working to submit a revised plan of development for the DWT-CTP block before the summer of 2022. Aker Energy was set to submit a revised plan of its development of Pecan oil field to government by the end of 2021. The revised plan followed the rejection of Aker Energy's initial plan of development to facilitate the optimization of the deepwater Tano Cape 3-point DWT-CTP block by government 2 years ago. Speaking about the revised plan, CEO of Aker Energy, Ghana, Madam Khadija Amwa, stated that the company is moving forward as planned with a new phased development concept for the Pecan field and to reduce break-even costs.
Europe's gas storage levels are still below the 5-year average, but prices expected to remain high despite the arrival of liquefied natural gas cargoes to offset limited Russian pipelines flows.
The region's storage levels have been unusually low since last winter, which has been partly responsible for wholesale prices hikes to unprecedented highs that have put some suppliers out of business and inflated household bills. The power price shock, along with high oil prices, also added to wider inflationary
Health news. The Ministry of Health has begun the No Vaccination Card, No Entry initiative to test the possibility of a mandatory vaccination. However, testing the QR codes on the vaccination cards has become a challenge. The Minister for Health, Mr. Kweku Adjumamenu, in an interview with GBC News said every other challenge associated with the initiative is being addressed to ensure its smooth implementation across the ministries. A report by Sarah Ofori.
Majority of the population remain adamant despite efforts by the Ministry of Health to get them vaccinated and adhere to the safety protocols. Since March last year till date, just about 13% of the population are either fully vaccinated or have at least received one dose. From a cursory look around town, the wanton disregard for the safety protocols was so glaring. Yet, the Minister for Health, Mr. Kweku Agyemang-Manu, says this does not mean the drive to curb COVID-19 is defeated.
We haven't lost the fight. But you see, we're washing hands, we're using sanitizers, we spend so much money. So we haven't lost the battle. But it's like we have to manage our resources also in a different manner. So those who are not using the masks, I don't know what we should tell them again. So they put themselves at risk. And if you want to join that group, you affect us too.
The health minister said the No Card, No Entry to Public Spaces initiative, when fully rolled out, would improve the rate of vaccination in the country.
We use Ministry of Health to test the inefficiencies and the effectiveness of that sort of policy or mandatory protocol we want to introduce. So far it's working. The challenges we are facing is testing the QR code we have on the vaccination cards. What device do we use to test and things like that? That is where we are. But going forward, a date will be mentioned, and I think we will introduce these things, not only to offices, but to some other places where people gather, where you meet people, to try to see how we can cut off the spread, the chain.
Meanwhile, the vaccination for other diseases, such as cervical cancer, among teenagers remain on course, although COVID-19 is said to have overshadowed the process.
Our vaccination program is on course. Last year, when we checked on our statistics, we did close to about 94% coverage, despite COVID. Initially, it wasn't that good, but later we got parents coming with their children, and things started working so well for us. So all our programs are still running. The only thing is that COVID has taken center stage, which is correct, but we are still running our traditional programs.
He debunked the myths surrounding the vaccines and entreated all those who are hesitating to take the jabs to do so in order not to put the rest of the population at risk. Sarah Furi, GBC News, Accra.
The Minister for Health, Mr. Kweku Agyemang-Manu, says vaccination remains a sure way of curbing COVID-19, despite the calls from a group of Ghanaian doctors to halt the exercise. The concerned doctors claim the risk factors of vaccination far outweighs the benefits, since the vaccination introduced so far have been ineffective at preventing the spread of COVID-19 variants. The concerned doctors claim some countries across the globe with high vaccination rates have had to introduce fourth boosters, yet the infections are unabated. However, in an interview, Mr. Kweku Agyemang-Manu said there is no scientific evidence to their claims.
The fact is that we are getting the disease spreading across